Hello and welcome into another edition of Sitting Down with Sgar. I'm the football voice of the Hoyas, Jeremy Huber, joined by Georgetown head coach Rob Scarlata. A happy Coach Scar after a 14-0 win over Fordham on Senior Day. Coach, let's start there. It's tough to script a better Senior Day than you got on Saturday.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's a very special group. It's 29 seniors and a couple additions, a couple transfers that have come in and really helped us. And I've been saying it all year. It's a great group. They really care about each other. They work really hard to, really project what we're trying to do here with the family atmosphere and playing as men for others. So really excited for them to get a win. In their last game on Cooper Field against one of our oldest rivals with Fordham. So great ceremony before the game and great celebration after the game with our seniors and their families.
And, Coach, it's interesting. We talked after the game. I think you looked at me and said, we don't make it easy on ourselves. But I will say this. I think you as coaches always want to see your guys progressing and learning. And I know after the Richmond game, you really drilled down on, too many sacks, too many 15-yard penalties, too many fumbles. In that area, your team rebounded great. You didn't have any turnovers. You only give it one sack. I think the only 15-yard penalty might have been an offensive pass interference. How proud of you were you of your guys taking those lessons learned and playing a much cleaner game in that regard against Fordham?
Yeah, honestly, from a skill level, we may have played better at times against Richmond, and we didn't play very smart. So to come in late in the season and really to go back to almost like a preseason camp mentality for our players, throughout the week preparing for Fordham, I was proud of them for that. I think everybody knew that we left some points on the table and some things that we'd like to correct from the Fordham game. And we talk all the time about progress, not perfection. If we have 10 mistakes in the game, we try and cut it in half. And I think you saw that especially on the defensive side of the ball. It was the best game that we had as far as defending explosives, tackling, obviously putting pressure on the quarterback and forcing some turnovers. So to watch that progression through the season, I still don't think we played 60 minutes. Hopefully we have that, on tap here in our last game. We probably played about 50 in that game. So looking forward to just getting those little improvements each day.
Coach, we've talked so much about the skill guys all season long with Jimmy Kibble and with Des Thomas and Savion Hart, but wanted to highlight the offensive line. I did a little back of the envelope math, and you guys at this point are in the top half of the Patriot League in rushing stats, which I know has not been somewhere you've always been in your tenure as head coach for different reasons. It's kind of that 145 yards a game, it feels like, is about the level. If you're at that or above, you're doing pretty well. You guys have hit that, I believe, 6 times this year. Talk about the run game, how it's improved, and maybe how this unit has had to kind of adjust from being maybe more of a pass blocking offensive line because of Danny Lauder being in there to maybe more of a run balanced offensive line.
Yeah, I think it's always a mix. It's one of our 3 core principles is to be able to run the football. And I think you saw that at the end of the Fordham game, up 14-0 with our defense playing well. We could really get into a 4-minute offense, and we got a couple first downs there and really ended the game. So, I give Coach Parton a lot of credit. I don't know if you've ever been in an offensive line room. It's a special room. It's unique. And the next man up mentality is a real thing. We've had a bunch of different combinations there, and it's not just having one player go down and replace him with another one. You have to move people around, and Sue's playing center and guard and tackle. And, the entire group has to do a great job for your program to do well. From your attack team offensive linemen that give a look to the defense, to guys that are on special teams and the shield on punt, to our offensive line. So I think it's a combination of things. Des Thomas is a very talented runner. We have a great stable of running backs. I would also lump the tight ends in with the offensive line. We created some new surfaces and had some different formations against Fordham that really beneficial for us.
Coach, let's move on over to the defense. You talked about the negative plays they caused, but also I felt like they limited big plays. How important was those 2 things into getting that shutout win against Fordham?
Yeah, it's huge. Whenever you play Fordham, Coach Conlon does a great job of coaching on offense. You just have to look at their results over the last couple of years. They put up a lot of yards and a lot of big plays. So, when you play them, you have to be prepared to deal with huge splits and different box count with some of the run game stuff. And that you're going to be in a situation to defend, upwards of 12 to 15, 50 balls in a game. So, give our secondary a lot of credit. give our corners a lot of credit. We had a couple different guys playing there between Quincy Briggs, who had another interception. Brian Lloyd, who's been exceptional all year. To play corner as a freshman for an entire season is a big deal. And Michael Bonsu, as a sophomore, is doing a really good job on the other side. So, you put that group together, and then you add Wedner Cadet coming back from, his rehab and injuries. It's a really solid group bolstered by, Braylon Wise, who plays all three spots. So, again, I give the coaches a lot of credit for putting people in positions to make plays. And, that's an improvement. We didn't have that in some of the past games that we weren't successful in defending the big plays. And that's something that Coach Doherty talks about in every meeting. It's the first thing after every game to open up his unit meeting. So it's great to see those guys have success in the back end.
Coach, interesting question here, I think, about your linebackers, Naimose and Giancarlo Rufo. I think they're basically playing almost the same right now in the plays they're making. And I think it speaks a bit to the idea of running your race, where Rufo comes in, he's a terror immediately. He comes in, is making plays. Nye, of course, came in, special teams guy, had the real tough year a couple years back where his father passes. He's away from the team for a little bit. But both guys have gotten to a point now where they are impactful Patriot League linebackers. How proud are you of both of those guys that they've kind of seen it through and been the players that I think you envisioned them being when they came to your program?
Yeah, I would say this. The 4 for 40 journey is real. The seal is up in the top. I think the left-hand side of the screen here. Everybody goes through a journey, and it's not what happens to you. It's how you react to it. Nye is playing, in my opinion, as well as any linebacker in the conference right now, including Giancarlo Rufo, who I have as an elite performer. There's one play in the game that won't be on the stat sheet. It'll just be a tackle, and we're in cover 2, and Nye is coming off the edge, and Fordham pops one with a running back, and it could have been a huge problem for us early in the game, and he tracked it down and made an incredible play. And it's one of those things that will not be on a highlight tape anywhere. It won't be like his sack or John Carlos plays in the open field that he had on Saturday. So, those journeys, I'll be honest with you, one of my favorite pictures ever is our senior picture from Saturday. And I was showing it to a lot of my campus partners this week. And to just go through and know that each kid has their own individual story, whether it plays out on the field or just in the practice field in the weight room for us. That's what makes it a really special group. It's 29 individuals that really are starting to represent the identity that we want to put, both on and off the field with Hoya football.
Are sitting down with Sgar Spotlight coming up. But before we get to that, Coach, wanted to talk about one more guy, Josh Leff. And it kind of felt like in that game against Sandstone, their backup punter who was just punting the heck out of the ball, Leff was kind of maybe the curveball junk pitcher against the fireball, but he kept you guys in the game. I think he had 3 putts inside the 20. Talk about Josh's nice day for you guys to keep field position even in the matchup with the Rams.
Yeah, a punter can be the defense coordinator's best friend or his worst enemy, and I think Coach Lee was pretty close with Josh on Saturday. He is a very intense person. He comes in, he works extremely hard at his craft, and he's always looking to get better. So I think the most impressive one was, the sting punt that he put down on the 3-yard line, and another one of our seniors, Cohen Sutton, downed it to create a 97-yard field. So, you're having a good day defensively when you're defending, 90-plus fields, and he was able to do that for us a couple times on Saturday.
Coach, you talk about intensity. That's a great segue for our sitting down with Sgar Spotlight this week. It's your edge. Cooper Blumstrom joining us on the show, a return visit by Cooper. Coop, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Cooper, 4.5 sacks on the day. I think me and Coach Scarlotta in agreement about maybe some more accolades should have been for that. Won't talk about that, but want to ask you, have you ever had a day where you thought you've had that many sacks before, even in Pee Wee football?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this yesterday, and I feel like I've never had an opportunity to get that many plays. So it was really fun. It was definitely a new experience, and I'm very blessed for that. But yeah, that was one of the best days I've probably ever had on a football field.
And Cooper, I know you're a team guy, so. And again, you're an edge. I'm an old nose tackle, so I always look for those guys inside. How important has it been for you as an edge rusher to get some guys in the middle this year that have gotten that push to make the quarterback maybe hang around for you to get there to him?
Yeah, it's huge. John and Nat and Dean, who's just coming in, they're huge, and we always communicate before the snap about what we're thinking, what the offense could do, and if it's a pass, like how they would cover me. So they're just huge. They help so much, and they're like strong push in the middle, because we always talk about Cabo and pushing them back, and every single time I pass rush, I can feel them also being there. So it kind of pushes you as well, because you know that they're going to get there as well. So it's kind of like a race to the football.
Coach, want to bring you in on this, and after the game, you didn't say it this way. I will, because it's the old John Thompson line. The old you can calm down a fool before you can resurrect a corpse. That was the old Big John line. You were talking about Cooper and his intensity. What does his effort and energy bring to this program for you?
Yeah, he's a problem, especially when we're running 2 minutes against our own people. There's not a halo call that Cooper likes. He's intense in practice, and we have to counsel him not to run over our own quarterbacks in practice. We love the competition, and he plays at an elite level. And I think I made the comment after the game, I don't think people realize how hard it is to continually rush the passer for 4 quarters. And if you look at it, we try to spell him with, some of our players. I think they were doing a good job behind him, and in critical situations, critical downs, we want him out there. So I was more impressed. 4.5 sacks is great. I was just more impressed with his motor throughout the game, to play that many snaps and have that high level of results and play at an elite level. I think that's something he's been working towards. And I think, he's really bought into working with Coach Dang and Coach Spence up front. And you can see his game elevate just from being mentored by those 2 great coaches here during the season.
Cooper, Coach talked about your energy. I remember a conversation we had in the preseason where you brought up your dad basically saying that in the Blumstrom house there was going to be a certain level of energy and effort when you guys got out on the field. Can you kind of give me that story back, and how important it's been to have your dad kind of giving you that good push on the field?
Yeah, there's no loafs when I was growing up, and if I did, I'd definitely get a talking to after. So he's just him, and my mom. She's always on me nowadays, especially more than ever, which is awesome. And he definitely checked me if I was kind of slacking off or slowing down. He would give me a good pickup and kind of like put me in the right mindset. So it was always awesome. Before the game, he would fire me up. After the game, he would give me a rundown. So just growing up with that is just perfect.
Well, Cooper, you're getting like Coach Sgar here. We're getting some good transitions out of you. You're headed back home to New England this weekend to play at Fenway Park. I know we were talking earlier, a place that you've gone pretty much once a year at least since you were a little kid. How nice and how much of a dream come true is it to get the chance to play at Fenway Park in a football game?
It's awesome. It's mind blowing. We were at the Sox game over the summer, and I was just talking to my parents and my brother and saying, like, we're going to play on this field this year. It's just so exciting. Everyone's been looking forward to it all year. And I've been going to Sox games, going to that ballpark. And I'd never imagined myself actually playing on it, but now it's happening, and there's even more motivation for this week.
Well, Cooper, again, a great performance on Saturday. Hope for another one for you this Saturday. Thanks again, and good luck the rest of the year.
Thank you.
Well, Coach, we'll wind this one down. And how amped are you about this game at Fenway, and how did it come about?
I'll be honest, we're really excited. I grew up in New York, about a half hour from the Bronx, and actually worked all through high school and college right next to the stadium. And although I'm not a Yankee fan, or wasn't allowed to be, my dad grew up in Brooklyn and was a huge Dodgers fan. So we were Met fans, and like the Yankees a little bit now. So for us, that the rivalry and being able to go up and play in front of the Northeast Hoya football family, I know that we'll be well represented. There's a bunch of events with our alums and family and friends up there. So for us, it's like a bowl game. And very thankful to Holy Cross and their administration, their coaches. They've had some success running similar games at Polar Park up there in the past, and they invited us to come and continue a great rivalry between Georgetown and Holy Cross. One of the main reasons we're in the Patriot League was success that we had playing against Holy Cross and Fordham. When Coach Benson started that back in the back in the 90s with teams that I know will be well represented up there. So for us, we're trying to balance the two things, right? There's a lot of things that are outside of our control and are going to be a little bit different on top of playing a football game on the same size field that we just did on Cooper Field. So I think it's a very appropriate place to end this season for this class and this entire group. They've done some things here that in the modern era of Georgetown and the Patriot League, we're approaching some milestones that we haven't hit yet. So we talked to them a lot about this not being the last thing, just being the next thing. And I think we're trying to keep it in perspective. So we're excited to get up there. And, it's one of the most iconic stadiums in the country. And like I said, I don't think of any other better way to send this senior group out and complete this season.
And of course, you guys are going for the first winning season since the 2011 campaign would be first of your tenure. And as you mentioned, Coach, there's a football game to be played around all the hoopla. Give us some thoughts on a Holy Cross team that is always tough in a bit of a down year. But what are your thoughts on what you've seen from the Crusaders?
Yeah, take the scores away from watching the film. This is a really good football team. If you had to rank this in their ranking with their record would definitely not match what I've seen on film. They had a really good game, played extremely well, high level against Bucknell this past weekend and got a win. So when you watch the games, they played a really tough schedule, and they've, gotten better each game also. So I think I said the same thing last week with Fordham. When you get to these games, especially for Georgetown, Fordham, Georgetown, Holy Cross, add Fenway into it, add the last game into it, the records really don't matter. We're looking to see how our team stacks up against the team that's been very successful in the Patriot League over the last 5 years, the most successful one. So, again, I think it just all adds to it. It's a great measuring stick to see where we are with our football program and, a great challenge for our 29 seniors and the rest of our program to, play in a great venue, man, in front of a lot of people. So we're very excited to make the trip and looking forward to seeing all of our alums up there out in force.
Well, we're excited for you and wishing you the biggest and most luck that you could have in that matchup against Holy Cross and hopefully come home with a win. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks very much. Thanks for all your help this year, Jeremy. Really appreciate it.
And thank you. And that'll wrap it up for another edition of Sitting Down with Sgar. Remember, Georgetown wraps their season up on Saturday as they face Holy Cross at historic Fenway Park. You can see it in person if you're in the greater Boston area. Check out Georgetown's social media for more information on different events this week. You can watch it online on ESPN+. Thanks again to Coach Scarlotta, Georgetown Edge Cooper Blumstrom, and producer Eliza Kravitz. That's all for this edition of Sitting Down with Scar. I'm Jeremy Huber and Hoya Saxa.